Welcome, folks, to our spotlight today. We are featuring Kelly Reid-Ward, and she's going to share her greenhouse journey with us today. If you're a student tuning in, please go to the RDIEC website and fill in the survey for a chance to win a $50 gift certificate and give us some feedback on how we can improve these sessions. With that, I'll turn it over.
Hi, and thank you very much, Troy. I'm really happy to be here today, and thank you very much for the opportunity to share my journey. It's one I really enjoy talking about, so I will enjoy myself as well as enjoying sharing with you. My name is Kelly. I'm a mom. I have 4 kids. I am happily married, and we also have a greenhouse business. The greenhouse business started very small about 12 years ago and has grown into a larger greenhouse now. Not a gigantic greenhouse, but a large greenhouse. We live in rural Saskatchewan, which is awesome. And we only run our greenhouse during the months of, we're only open during the month of May for customers, but we are in operation from March until June. I began my love for the greenhouse when I was in university, and my good friend Yvonne worked at Unique Garden Center in Regina, and she said, why don't we work together at Unique Garden Center? And I said, sure. Went to Unique Garden Center, and my job was simply to work the till. And I just loved every minute of it. I really enjoyed my boss. She was a wonderful woman. And I really need to say and stress that people that love gardening and greenhouse are very, very friendly people. I remember often telling the people that wanted to write checks with no identification that greenhouse people are good, honest people. We don't worry about your check bouncing because we just know you're good, honest people. My time at the till would end and we would just be so busy. There would be, 10 people lined up and customers like crazy carrying out their products. And I would just tell my boss, I'm good. I'll just stay and work for a few more hours and we'll just try and get rid of the busyness and then I'll go home. Sometimes she let me and sometimes she didn't. I think she was worried that I would want to be paid overtime, and that most certainly was not the case. I just loved being in the greenhouse and working with the people and the plants. As I mentioned, I was in university and I became a teacher, and so we strayed away from the greenhouse for quite a while. But slowly but surely we got back into it. My husband built me a little greenhouse and we just provided plants for ourselves. And then friends would come over and I would go, oh, I have too many plants, so I'll give you some. And then one day I had a knock on the door and it was someone that I didn't even know that wanted to come in and see my greenhouse. And I said, well, sure. And so we went to the greenhouse and I showed her and she wanted some things. And I said, well, yeah, I've got lots. So go ahead, just take them. And she did, but she insisted upon paying. And that was fine. It was whatever, $5, whatever. But then she came back the next year and I thought, Kate, well, I can't be growing things for free for people that I don't even know. So then we built a bigger greenhouse and we started passing the word that we would sell, I guess, to people if they knocked on the door. The neighbor lady down the road, she had a big greenhouse and she went out of business, and so we bought her out. And so today we have 6 big greenhouses with a square footage of about 6,000 feet. My training in the greenhouse is essentially that. It's books and people and trial and error and working with my husband, and again, working with people and phoning people and asking questions and joining organizations and just learning as much as I possibly can there's a book that I would like to refer to, and it's called The Ball Red Book. I'll show it at the end of the session so you can get a better look at it. And it is considered the guidebook of the industry. It's not cheap, about $100, but it's really the only book you probably need in terms of growing plants. As a small business owner, you are responsible really for all of those duties. I do the accounting, I do the marketing, my husband and I do the caretaking. I hire people, we plan everything that we do. We try and do all of that ourselves. And I'm not going to say that we do a wonderful job of it, because it's hard to do all those things as a small business owner. When you're a big business, you can hire someone that does HR. When you're a big business, you can hire someone to be the accountant. But when you're a small business, you have to dabble in those things yourself. Absolutely, there is help all over the place, and we ask for it. And again, just like we learn about growing plants, we learned about being an accountant, we learn about being a marketer, we learn how to go about hiring people and work with our employees in the best way that we can. Specifically, when we're in the greenhouse, though, we need to be able to transplant plants. And I've brought you a tray of oregano, and this is how they come. There are 512 little plants in this tray, and we pick them out one at a time, trying to not break the plant. And they're little guys like this, and then we pot them up, and then they grow. This is not oregano, this is a potato vine, but then they grow to be nice big plants like this. So we have to transplant the plants, we have to care for them, we have to keep them alive, we have to give them the food and the drinks that they want. We have to look at the plants a couple times a week to make sure that there aren't any bugs or any diseases that are growing on the plants. If there are, we have to apply appropriate products to get rid of the diseases or the plants. We do a lot of work just moving plants and moving boxes and moving big planters and moving big trays. And we also need to be able to work effectively with the public and your employees as well, and your coworkers. I have a very crude greenhouse. It's plastic and aluminum hoops, really, is all it is. It's not fancy at all. And that's because essentially I am not prepared to invest a lot of money into my greenhouse, because very honestly, a lot of money is not coming out. And I want to be able to put the money that I make out of the greenhouse not back into the greenhouse. And so our greenhouses are quite plain. You can certainly buy very beautiful greenhouses, and you've probably seen them. They often have automation that allows the roofs to lift up on levers, and the humidity can escape and the extra heat can escape. There are thermostats that will operate that. When the thermostats realize, oh, the greenhouse is a bit hot, the levers will open up those roofs. In my greenhouse, we walk in and we say, oh, it's a bit warm, and we just open up doors and get the air moving that way. And it works just fine. So really all you need is just what I said, some sort of a structure that will hold some plastic, or some sort of a structure that will hold some glass. My very first greenhouse was a wooden 2x4 structure with old windows that my husband fit into those spaces. And again, it worked wonderfully. Another item that would be very helpful that I haven't mentioned on the PowerPoint is some kind of a way to make the air move. And so we have fans in the greenhouses, and they're the oscillating fans. And you need to keep that air moving in a greenhouse. A windy day will do it when we open up the doors, but sometimes in the middle of those big greenhouses, the air isn't flowing as well. You need to be having some air movement so that the plants are not rotting. You also have to have a way to water your plants. And I've mentioned in my PowerPoint that could easily just be a watering can, and you walk around the greenhouse and you water the plants. What we simply have are water hoses. Absolutely have a greenhouse that is automated, and you flip a switch and your greenhouse will water everything all at one time. Again, great expense, and probably only great big huge greenhouses would have those because they are trying to save some time. A bench is also nice to have your products on so that you're not having to kneel down or have your product on the floor where it's cold, but not necessary. You can grow just as easily on the floor as you can on a 3-foot bench. These are my greenhouses, and you can see, as I said, they're quite ordinary and plain. The one is at the beginning of the season when we're doing planting on the right, and the other one on the left is the greenhouse a little bit further on in the year. So the greenhouse runs on a cycle that begins in the fall, and that is my personal busy time because I am in charge of all the ordering in the greenhouse. And so I am looking through catalogs and brochures and the internet, and I'm placing all our orders with various different growers. We also have to place the order for the plastics, and so the little pots, like these little guys, we have to order those, and we have to order the tray, and we also order our decorative products too. Those non-living materials can be delivered at any point in time, and ours personally are delivered in a semi to our farm, and then we just store them in our Quonset until we're ready for them. The plants actually won't begin arriving until February or March. And again, they'll arrive as those little plugs that I showed you earlier. And then you begin transplanting those, and you might be doing some seeding. I have a seed tray. We do our seeding in the house because I don't have a seed room. And so this is a seed tray of Prairie Pride tomatoes that hasn't germinated yet. And I have about 40 of these trays here in the sunroom. So it gets a little bit untidy in the sunroom, but I don't have a seed room in the greenhouse. And so that's how we make do. The plants arrive, they're transplanted, and they're grown. And we are very, very busy then in May with customers coming to the greenhouse. And we also do a lot of wholesale business. And so those plants then are shipped off to the other centers that will sell the products there. May long weekend is traditionally the very busiest weekend for greenhouses, although we are noticing that it's getting earlier and earlier these years. Certainly COVID has made the greenhouse industry much more appealing to people, and people are starting to grow earlier and more. And so we are finding that our greenhouses are busier earlier. The greenhouses will usually be done by September, and then the cycle begins again in the fall with ordering. This little girl in the picture is one of the children of my employees, and she comes to work with her mom, and she sometimes pretends to ride the tractor, and sometimes she plants with her mom. And so here she is planting. And it's one of the fun things for me is to just work with kids and see their love of the greenhouse and take them around the greenhouses so that their parents can shop and give them a little planter and let them pick out a couple plants, and then we go and plant it, and that little one can take home their plant. And I hate to admit this because it sounds funny, but I really like being a boss. I like being the person in charge. I like being the person that gets to be making decisions. And I like to be the person that helps other people as well. I also enjoy the speed of which the greenhouse industry runs, and it's fast, particularly, as I said, in April, May, and June. And for some reason, I enjoy that. I say I'm either the best boss or the worst boss. The best boss because I really, really respect my employees and give them an awful lot of leeway in terms of what they want to do in the greenhouse and what they might want to try that they think would be of value to our customers. I also sometimes wonder if I'm the worst boss, though, because when they approach me with their ideas, I generally say, yeah, that's awesome, go for it. And I wonder if sometimes they prefer to have a little bit more direction than I often give them. I really, really enjoy the relationships that I have made with the people all over Canada, people that we purchase plants from and people that we purchase products from. I am the type of person that enjoys having a little conversation with my networking group. And then we get to business. I like to know that their kids are doing well, and I like to know the weather in Nova Scotia. And that is important to me, that I have a relationship with those people. And I have very much enjoyed that relationship that I have with people all across Canada. The greenhouse industry is not one that has become automated. It is very, very labor intensive. We rely on our muscles and we rely on our bodies and minds to do an awful lot. There are computers and there are systems and machines that help for sure, but not for a person that is a smaller grower. For example, when we are working with the transplanting, there are machines called bale busters, and they will take the great big heavy bale of soil and it will break it apart for the people, and it will actually fill trays as well for the people. So that machine is a godsend for the people in the big greenhouses. For us, we do that manually. We load that big heavy bale of soil into a bin and we physically break it apart ourselves with a tool that has a whole bunch of points on it, and we break it apart, and then we manually put with our hands, or with the pails, we take those and then we dump it in, and then we are able to work with the trays of soil. So really a lot of labor to do that. Then those flats full of plants have to be moved, and then perhaps they have to be moved again because we have 6 greenhouses. We have certain areas that like this is the tomato greenhouse, this is the petunia greenhouse. And so those plants then have to be moved again. Today, for example, and I'll refer back to the Bacopa, but I can tell you this morning, the Bacopa is dead. And so we are going to cull out the Bacopa this afternoon. And so that again is more carrying and lifting. When the plants are shipped, again, we're carrying and lifting these plants that have to be loaded onto racks, driven to Regina, and then we unload those racks again. My husband is in charge of keeping the plants alive, which is sometimes a stress for me because I go out there and I think, oh my goodness, these plants need a drink. And I'll say to my husband, these plants need a drink. And he'll say, they're fine. And I'll say, yes, they are, and walk away. That is a stress for me, not a stress for him, apparently. But it is a lot of work to keep a plant alive and healthy and beautiful and desirable for that customer so that they will sell in May. So the salary and benefits of a person working a greenhouse are not too high when you come in as a general laborer that doesn't have any background information or knowledge, you can expect to work for minimum wage. These are really good jobs for students to get into. If you continue working in the same business year to year to year, you can expect wage increases. I personally pay a wage increase of $1 a year for my employees that are coming back. That wage would probably go up to about $20. And if you are a employee that is a tremendous asset to that company, then I would think they would be very happy to pay that $20 and keep you as an employee. If you go to university or go to Sask Poly, you could get a degree or a certificate in horticulture, and this position then would be more beneficial to a greenhouse as well, because you're coming with that knowledge and you will be expecting a higher wage, of course. And so when I went online, I discovered that the average horticulturist is paid about $20 in Canada. The greenhouses, as we've been mentioning, are open only seasonally, and so it's very difficult for an employee to be paying benefits to an employee that is not essentially working year-round. And so I think it would be rare to find benefits packages to an employee working in a greenhouse. Personally, my employees are hired as contract workers, which means that they take care of their own benefits and deductions, and but they also set their own hours. And so I tell them, this is the job that needs to be done. And if they want to come in and work at 9 or 7 or work until into the evening, that is up to them. I don't dictate their time. I find that works very, very well. Personally, I also believe that family comes first. And so being a contract worker works very well for my ladies and my gentlemen, because if they've got children that are ill that they need to stay home with, then that works great for them, because I'm not setting their work hours, they set their own work hours. There are so many ways that you can learn in this industry. Outside of your agriculture degree or certificate, there are conferences every year in the province. In fact, it just ran last weekend, I believe, the greenhouse conference in Saskatoon. There's a terrific one in Alberta and an amazing one also in Manitoba, and all across Canada if you're interested and have the desire to travel. There are wonderful people in the industry that are willing to help. There are books and books and books and books that are full of information. There are clubs, gardening clubs. There are so many ways to learn about greenhousing and gardening, and so many wonderful, nice people that are willing to share all that they know. To anyone that's interested in getting involved in the greenhouse, even as a hobby, I would just suggest that you apply and work as a greenhouse general laborer. There are, again, lots of opportunities to work with the products and learn about the products and learn from your coworkers and get involved as well. With some experience, and as you're changing your position within the company, maybe you'll grow to be the manager of a department. Maybe you'll grow to to learn about the landscaping aspect. There's just a lot of things that a person can do. I think if you're wanting to dabble a little bit and just get interested in it, find someone to help you build a little greenhouse in your backyard. There's also grow lights. You can grow in your home. A lot of people like to start the seedlings on their windowsill, and that works too. Lots of things to just get your toes in a little bit and enjoy the world of the greenhouse and enjoy the world of flowers. Work-life balance is a little bit tricky in the greenhouse because there's not work for several months and then there's a lot of work for several months. It's tricky. I did just mention family comes first. I personally stand by that myself, and I instill that upon my greenhouse workers as well. Family always comes first. After that, though, we're busy in the greenhouse. February, March, April, May, and June. But we love it and we enjoy it. A greenhouse is a beautiful place to be. It's warm, it's pretty, it's quiet, and it smells good. I hope that you will find some time to head to a greenhouse and check it out.
You want to share that book?
Right. So this is the Ball Red book. It's very, very thick and lots of pages, as I said, and was expensive. I'll just show you this page. This is the one that I use for growing cucumbers and pumpkins and watermelons. And it gives you the information. And then I've annotated so year after year, I don't have to keep looking. I just know that when I'm growing pumpkins, I need to get the seed in the ground 6 weeks ahead of time. When I'm growing watermelons, I know that I need to get the watermelon planted 8 weeks in advance of the May long weekend. And it's full. It's alphabetical and so much information about every plant that you would ever want to grow. And the front of the book I don't use so much, but it's more specific to just general greenhouse growing. I use the back of the book specifically per plant.
Nice. Any questions, Renette, that you can think of?
Yeah, I like I said, I really and truly enjoyed your presentation, Kelly. It's so nice to see the different opportunities in small business owners and just how, easy, if anybody that has a love for the plant, how simple it is to start potentially, your own little business like that and maybe be employed with a company or a business like yours. So thank you for giving those opportunities to students to show them kind of that path that you had taken. And truly, greenhousing is a very, what's the word that I'm looking for, calming experience. Anybody that's ever walked into one knows exactly what you're referring to.
Yes.
So do you have any other tips for students that are specifically maybe looking to, you've kind of talked about, coming in as a student and then maybe taking some courses. Do you know specifically any courses out there that students might look into or consider?
Well, the Master Garden program is run through the Saskatoon University, and I would suggest that they look into that as a starting point. That program provides you with a manual, which is full of all sorts of information about varying aspects of gardening and greenhousing. You also have opportunity to attend workshops in that program. You also have opportunity to do some like work placement kind of a thing. It's not really work placement, I suppose. You're expected to do some volunteer work within an organization on your own time, which will definitely give you experience and networking opportunities, which would be wonderful. Specifically I'm certain that the universities still have horticulture degree programs through their science faculties. And I don't know for a fact, but I would expect that Sask Poly also offers some certificates in the Department of Horticulture.
Yeah, thank you so much for giving those
Yes.
post-secondary choices.
And then in terms of working, there are many greenhouses. I actually am surrounded by 5 greenhouses in my little rural area, which is wonderful for networking. It's a little bit tricky for competition, but everyone in a greenhouse would want to hire high school students. They are young and agile and able to work and move, and everyone would be needing to hire in the spring, university workers, high school workers. Yes.
Awesome.
Yes.
Thank you for sharing that. That's great.
Do you do any of the composting with your extra foliage, I guess?
Right. I don't. We have different avenues of getting rid of the extra foliage and the extra products. We donate to hospitals and care homes. And we also do some work with, the name is also escaping me today, but it's the newcomers group in Regina. We donate plants to new families and new immigrants that have come into Regina. And so we don't have any product at the end of the year because we donate it all to other organizations that we feel would be useful and valuable. There definitely are greenhouses that do compost. I can imagine that's just a sad day though when they when they have to dump those flats and compost. Anything that we cull, we compost though, and it just goes into our compost pile, and my husband flips it a few times throughout the year, and then we just put it onto my own personal garden.
Good, thanks. Anything else, Renee?
No, I think you've answered my questions very well. Thanks, Kelly. This was very informational, and we appreciate the time that you've spent with us. Thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome, and thank you.
Yes, thanks so much for sharing.
You're very welcome.